Diamo il benvenuto al prossimo e penultimo ospite di questa edizione di Surface in Motion Italia, Oliver Barr, Director Product Marketing di Koenig & Bauer. Ha una lunga esperienza, insomma, nel settore delle arti grafiche, quasi 40 anni, e appunto è direttore del marketing, del prodotto marketing appunto presso questa azienda. Ci parlerà di come ottimizzare i processi e ampliare le possibilità con la stampa decorativa digitale. La presentazione è in inglese e quindi, giusto? In English? Ok?
English, yeah.
Ok. So, we can start.
So thanks for the introduction and well, pleasure for me having this short presentation here in Surface in Motion with Zoom in Bergamo. I apologize up front to the Italian, let's say, translator, because I might talk a bit fast, so in advance, sorry for that. Second, I'm doing a talk about a very trivial thing, it's about printing. But before about printing, hopefully this works. Down, okay. So, let's talk about different things about printing. This is the communicator. For those of you who are probably my age, you probably remember Star Trek, but with the typical sound of opening the communicator. Yeah? That was invented in 1966 by Gene Roddenberry. He was just about 269 years late because the start took place in 2265, and actually Motorola invented or introduced the first, let's say, small microtech in 1996. Actually, I'm not a Star Trek kid because I'm a kid of the 80s, so Star Wars is my world basically, and in Star Wars is more the rebel side. I'm not of the Imperial side. But that was really kind of an interesting development where a science fiction film and a communicator of a science fiction film became in the end true. Pretty cool. And if you look back then to the times where we had these brick phones, they worked, they did the job. And say, who owned one of those brick phones? Well, me definitely, Royce, and I think everybody in the 40s, 50s probably used those brick phones at a certain time. And they had a battery life forever. You know, you probably find a Nokia 2110 somewhere in the ground in 1,000 years, and the battery probably still have 25%. Yeah? You could drop them, you could throw them away, they survived everything. The cons were they were semi-limited. They were down to the point being a phone, nothing else basically. Probably having a little game on it called Snake, and probably all of us who used those phones were addicted to Snake at a certain point. Now at a certain time, the evolution went on, and the smartphones had been invented. And on smartphones, well, it's my personal life, it's my business life, it's my GPS, it is my bank account, it is more or less everything. So that phone took a very big share of my personal organization, of my personal life, basically. However, the battery life is awful. I'd say you probably recharge your iPhone, your Android phone, probably once a day. And you probably freak out if you're out in the woods for more than one day and you take probably 2 battery stations with you in order to make sure that your iPhone or your Android is still working. Yeah? Once you drop it, you have the spider app, meaning your display simply is gone. And once you lost it, you probably get into deep trouble. Now, how does this respond to printing? Well, actually, and I'm sorry to say, in decor printing, we still print with the Nokia brick phone. We're living in a world of iPhones. We're living in a world of hyper-personalization, as we already heard a minute ago. We live in niche markets. We want to address different applications, different new models. We want to do something very special, but in printing, we're printing with brick phones. For sure, those presses, they work. They are probably cheap in CapEx. I'm not sure if they're so cheap in OpEx. they're reliable, but can I really change into the future, into our challenges with this kind of technology? From an environmental point of view, from an application point of view, from that what we really desire, what we need in order to attract the markets. Or are we going to change to the iPhones or the Androids of this world? And that's actually the press and the product I'm responsible for. For sure, it has a higher capex as a gravure press, no doubt about it. And it has a higher opex than every gravure press, no doubt about it, in printing. The question is about the upstream processes, doing your cylinders, doing your engraving, doing your, let's say, hardening of the surface. Yeah? Not even talking about the environmental topic with, let's say, Chrome 6 and Chrome 3 and all those stuff. Yeah? The question is, if we have higher apex, higher capex, higher opex, how can we make money out of that? And I think there are two different directions. One direction is definitely we do something with these prices nobody else can do. We do premium products and charge more money for it, generate more profit. But in order to doing this, I think we have to go on a lower side to say, how can we optimize processes in order to make this press in our day-to-day business as productive, or probably higher productive, and on a cost perspective, also in a level where we are in the current technology. And I think Nino Speranza made yesterday a nice speech about it, yeah, about how can a decor printer be productive and make profit with digital printing, and they already made this journey with us together. So having a very short view onto this press, it is for us, it's fast, it's reliable, it works. And I hope you have heard about it, you know it somehow. Yeah? But just give you an idea, we print on this press an entire day, and we did this, and had the first good meter to last good meter, a delta E below 1. So we achieved the quality required in the decor printing industry. It's not the problem. You know. It is the leading decor press in terms of output speed. And it's a stable process. We mastered bending compensations. We have density definitions. We can repeat decors from day to day, week to week, month to month, and achieve the results. So this is reality. It is there. Now, if I take this press, and if I replace a standard press, a gravure press, with a digital press, and I keep the process, well, I change a shitty conventional process into a shitty digital process. If I don't change the process, I have a problem. I mentioned here Color Gate. I was also point to Torsten from CGS Oris, who's today with us. And this could also be replaced. It's just an example. It's not exclusively something we do with the colleagues of Color Gate. It could also be done via Oris and CGS. So, but in the end, if we print something, we do probably also face some changes. We see changes in the media. Paper is a natural product. And although I believe a lot of paper manufacturers that they produce highly, let's say, standardized products, there is a change because natural product and fiber is going to change. So there might be some changes in the base paper. Now, there's going to be, has to be, let's say, aligned on it. And also, we have operators still. Those presses are operated by skilled people. And probably Monday might probably be a bad day to start after a heavy weekend, whatever, yeah, so there might be some changes. And also the press does have some wear and tear parts, no doubt about it. We have print heads inside, and print heads age. The good thing on our side is our print heads we're going to use, if they age, they produce a wider gamut. So for us it's easy to set up the press and to match that given gamut the press gives over a long period, because we have so-called a density alignment system to achieve that the density we print today is the same density we print in 4 weeks, and 4 months, and probably in 2 years. And this can be used. And if I start now this old process to print something, to check, compare, and I tweak and do whatever, you know, did once an apprenticeship in this industry, not in decor printing, but in offset. And I came from offset. I'm an offset kid in the past. And I went to Malte Tadai from Interprint. We were together in the box where we compared the samples. And I mentioned to him, hey, the quality looks okay to me. And he mentioned to me, listen, Oliver, the result you see here, we don't even use as a palette note. So because we are in the Champions League of printing. But if we try to change or tweak the process like we do in Gravure, no way to succeed, because you don't benefit from the advantage. So we can automate with software and workflow, which is upstream. We can automate color corrections. We print something, we print with the print also some targets, we measure the targets, we align the targets, and we correct files on the fly. We also can keep those characteristics in a repository. So if a job appears in a certain of time, some weeks, some months, and we have to redo this particular job, we print the job, we measure the color gamut of it, we measure the ICC profile of it, and compare it and change then according to the profile. We don't touch the base file anymore. It's been done probably in the past. We don't change ink, we don't change anything on the press. We keep the press as it's running, set it up technically, and change it via the ICC profiles. And this is a much faster process, much, let's say, time and also production time, efficient process. And it also allows us to have a continuous workflow in terms of color correction, reproducing, without the necessity of printing, correcting, in order to achieve, luckily, after, let's say, 3 or 4 iterations, a good result. And this makes digital printing by far more efficient than any gravure press on this world. Now, if we talk about printing, and we can do this, that's also about distributing print. Because you print probably in Asia, you print in Europe, you print in America. You want to have the same result of all those 3 different prints in 3 different areas, with 3 different medias all across the world. And this digital printing, with a good process and a good color management, enables you to align different regions, different presses to one result. So distributed print, make your decors available all around the world. From now to next try. And if your process is stable, if you're able to reproduce your jobs, if you're able to do distributed print, for example, or on-demand business and repeat business, then do something conventional can't do in order to make the money. I wouldn't go so far that this is the icing of the cake, but it is an ability to do things nobody else can do and enable new business models. Oops. Here we go. Inkjet has lots of advantages, also some downturns, no doubt about it, but one major advantage in almost every application where we implement digital printing or inkjet printing is we don't have fixed circumferences. In Gravure, I think you have a 1.34 meters, 1.3 meters circumference. So every 1.5 meters, you repeat your cylinder. Inkjet is not fixed to that. We can print basically endless. There's a bit of data on it, a bit of RIP technology inside, a bit of data limitations on it, but basically, from a theoretical point of view, we can print endless. And actually, we did something like this. So for us, it's not a big deal to print 5.6 meter long decors. Not at all. And if you compare conventional printing with digital printing on different volumes or different sizes, the maximum size we print with conventional Gravure printing is roughly 2.7 square meters. That's the space you have to make a decor. If I make an easy calculation, I'm not good at mathematics, I take a 100 square meter room and I put there panels with 2.7 square meters. I have basically 36 repeats of a knot hole in a room of 100 square meters. And simply by the change from 2.7 square meters to roughly 11.5 square meters on a 5.6 meter long panel, I just have 9 in the same room. It's not also about, let's say, flooring, so also panels, for example, wall coverings, outdoor coverings, whatever. Yeah? I have more or less freedom in terms of laying or putting my flooring laminates on the floor. A friend of mine did once a mistake. He has a huge living room, roughly about 50 square meters. Well, 50 square meters, I live in a tiny house. My entire house has 50 square meters. They have a big house. They have 50 square meters living room. And they didn't shuffle the panels around. So they pulled the boxes and took the panels from the boxes. And after they were finished, they showed me the wonderful living room. I said, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 repeats of the same knot hole at the same area. You shouldn't do that. So therefore, always mix your panels prior you do your flooring laminates. That's not necessary on a long decor, basically, because in a 100 square meter room, let's say 50 square meter, it's just 2 or 3 repeats. It's easier, it's nicer, it's cooler. It enables us totally different decors. And if we use something more advanced on it, and we can do it, technology enables it. Yeah. Oops, you've probably seen it. If I apply then artificial intelligence to it, and I create per 5.6 meter long panel, an own panel. The same, I take the base oak and I change in the base oak via AI my appearance of the base oak. I have the ability to have a never-ending decor, 100 square meters without any repeat. And actually we have done it. We have done it on Drupa 24 with 1.3 meter width, 24 meter length, a decor supplied by Royce. Thank you, Royce, for that anymore. So where we have a decor 1.3 meter wide, 24 meter long, no square millimeter was identical. So technology is there. It's the market, and it's you guys doing it, demanding it, and having ideas around it. And actually, that's another example. These are the 9 repeats. And if I change to the AI ones, yeah, those are the repeats of these 5.6 meter long decors. And actually, that would be an AI-generated one. Actually, I see basically 3 repeats in this area, but this is something AI can do for us. So it's basically 2 steps. One step is change your decors to long decors, extended decors. Do the 5.6 meters because all your press plates have 5.6 meters. You can easily do it. It's no challenge for you also in the downstream process of doing long decors. You simply cut them, mill them, and do as they are. With AI thing, and you're changing constantly your decors, it's a bit of a different story. There are some challenges in the downstream process we have to overcome. But software is there, technology is there, so you can do it. And I know I'm faster as usual, yeah, roughly 10 minutes in advance. So we have a bit more time for the closing words. My favorite 2, let's say, phrases, coming one from Grace Hopper, a very, very interesting person. Grace Hopper was active as once in the IT in the 1930s, so she was in a male-dominated area, came in as a woman and changed everything about IT. She was the first woman encountering or finding a bug because a physical bug destroyed one of her computers, and she took the bug, glued it to a piece of paper and wrote, "This is a bug." That was the first definition of a software bug, which was not software, was hardware. And she did a phrase that the most dangerous phrase in our language is, "If it's always done this way." And this industry, sorry to say, is a proof of that phrase. We have it always done this way. We have it always done 1.3 meters. We have it always done in gravure. We have to move. And the other one is Henry Ford, a very, let's say, a person you can hours discuss about it. But he made one very important phrase. If he would ask his customers what they want to have faster horses. They would have a brick phone with an even longer battery. But they were not going to the way having an iPhone or a smartphone. And we have to think about differently. And unfortunately, I didn't have the slide, or I didn't include that slide. 3 weeks ago at Interpack, packaging fair, where the LED wall in the background of our booth. That LED wall can play every decor instantly. And you've probably seen some AI videos in YouTube, whatever, where we have a table that changes from a waterfall to a green area, whatever. But think where we will be with LED technology in 10 to 15 years. And probably don't sell any decors more. We probably sell LED panels. And if we go on and don't change our ideas, if we go on and just, let's say, continue and do that what we have always done, there is a certain risk that this industry, especially in falling lemonades, is going to be disrupted. So better act instead of keeping the standard as we are today. Therefore, that's my points. Thank you for the attention, and I wish you a great day here in Bergamo.
Thank you, Mr. Bar. A question. How would you define innovation? For you?
For me, innovation is something doing it differently. Innovation, I think there are two approaches of innovation. Doing the evolutionary approach or the revolutionary approach. From my point of view, too many speeches we hear, too many presentations we see are about disruptive technologies, which aren't disruptive, which are more evolutionary. But it is innovation is doing things differently and going forward and changing technology, changing processes. That's for me innovation.
Thank you very much. Thank you.